Hello, everyone. This is Scott Leinsberg with the Record Podcast. Today we are speaking to my good friend and broadcaster for the Stockton Heat, Brandon Kiska. Brandon, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate you coming out to the arena, and I'm excited to do this with you.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. At least I hope so. I know it will be for me. I hope it is for you too.
Oh, it always is. It's always a pleasure to talk to Scott Leinsberg.
Well, as we're sitting up here in Brandon's booth, which is the best view in the arena, frankly, and we're watching. I know this is a little different, but explain. We're watching. We have a power skating coach below us here.
Yep.
Working with players individually.
Yep. It's Dawn Braid, who is a consultant with the Calgary Flames Hockey Club, and what she does is she's involved in power skating, and basically what power skating is taking the strides that guys have, bad habits especially, and formulating good habits with it. So she's worked, pretty much in a lot of different levels. I mean, she's done as much as Hockey Canada and working with guys like John Tavares, some of the greatest athletes that play the sport of hockey. So it's really helpful, I think, for her to come down and to help individual guys out. And you tend to see her more with the rookies. But I noticed a couple weeks ago when we were at Oak Park, you happened to be there as well. As the first time I think you ever got a chance to meet Dawn. But you noticed Brandon Bollig, who was suspended most recently for those 2 games with that hit. He's someone that didn't necessarily have to be out there, but stayed out there. And I think guys realize the kind of track record that Dawn has, and they want to try and learn from her. And the fact is I don't know, Scott, are you much of a skater? Have you skated much in your life?
I have skated. I don't know if I'd skate right now. But I did. I can skate if necessary.
Well, there are certain bad habits that you can get, and there's certain ways that your stride can be improved. And obviously, with these guys' caliber of athletes, we might not necessarily notice it because we're just Joe Schmoes who pretend to play hockey or pretend to skate. But these guys, every little inch or every little tweak to their skate could certainly be the difference between making the NHL and not.
Okay, let's start with an easy question because I just want to kind of ease into this. How many words would you say that you say per season?
Oh, I don't even know. I wouldn't even know how to guess.
No, I'm kidding.
Math is not my strong suit. I tell you that. But that's interesting. I don't even know. I'd be curious. Someone like Doc Emmerich, especially because the way his vocab is, and a lot of people really enjoy the way that he broadcasts games. I'd be curious to see what his the amount of different words he says in a year, but also the amount of total words he says over the course of a season. But I know it's a lot. I know my mother and my wife have been trying to shut me up for years, so I'm sure I talk a little too much.
Kind of take us through. You're now you actually have came out right on the cusp at the end of the Stockton Thunder, and you stayed in the position as Director of Media Relations.
Yep.
and the lead broadcaster for the Heat. So you were here during the transfer to the higher level of hockey. Did it affect how you do your job much when you moved from the ECHL to the AHL?
Yeah, I think it did, and I say that because one of the great reasons that I find when we work with the Calgary Flames organization is that there's a lot of attention and there's a lot more eyes on everything that you do because hockey is just the thing. It's like high school football around here in Stockton, up in Calgary. So you have a lot of people who are watching the highlights after the games, that they're listening to you, they are reading the articles that are produced by myself and my crew of guys that help me out throughout the course of the season, Dustin Cowell being one of them. But, it's... I think for me, one of the adjustments that I've tried to make as we go from ECHL to AHL is just to remind myself that there's a lot of people in Stockton, in Calgary, and even across the world that are Calgary Flames fans that are interested in what our organization is doing as a whole, what our players are doing. So for me, I want to make sure that I try and keep those people well fed. And so I think the biggest change is that with the Stockton Thunder and the ECHL, and it's certainly not a knock on that level of hockey, there just isn't as many eyes on it. Whereas right now you're dealing with guys, in that locker room, I guarantee you, Oliver Shillington, Rasmus Anderson, Mark Jankowski, John Gillies, like these are all players that seem to figure in to the big picture of the NHL and could very well be superstars in the NHL for years to come. And we have the great fortune of being able to talk about them, and I get to talk about them and write about them as we go through their careers in the American Hockey League. So I think that's the biggest adjustment that I've made, but I think it's more of a media relations or PR writing adjustment than the broadcasting. I think I try and be the exact same broadcaster I was when I was with the Stockton Thunder, and you just kind of carry it forward and do your thing here with the Heat.
Did you feel any? Well, I think you might have already answered this, but it was on my list, so I'll say it.
Okay.
Did you feel any pressure though, like the first AHL game? Because in the position you were in, you were doing games in the ECHL, and what you do is you want to move up. When you're in AHL, you want to move to the NHL.
Yep.
So you kind of were lucky that the AHL team came in here, and then they kept you on. Obviously, that was a pretty easy decision from what I understand. But now you kind of. You didn't have to move for the promotion, which is very rare in this sport, right?
Very rare, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so did you feel any extra pressure early on, like in the first game, or was it more just excitement?
You know what? I actually think if I go back to it, I think I felt more pressure with the last Thunder game as opposed to the first AHL game. And I think that has to do with obviously a guy who's well respected here in Stockton, Mike Benton, and the voice of the Stockton Thunder for years, and certainly coming in as the new guys. I felt like we needed to end the Stockton Thunder on a good note, and we got a great game to end it on. We had great storylines at the end, with Garrett Hunt becoming the all-time leading point scorer in Stockton Thunder history, and also raising his banner up to the rafters. So I felt a lot of pressure to close the era off. When we began a new era, I kind of felt like for myself it was a rejuvenation of excitement, because you're right, Scott. The fact is that for the most part, you don't get an AHL job your third year out of college, or third year working professionally. I guess I was out of college by then, but I really don't take it for granted every day. It kind of humbled me that I was able to make the transition to the AHL, because I know there's a lot of deserving broadcasters in the ECHL who are looking to move up and looking to move to the AHL, and I kind of just lucked into one. And I've been told by a couple other broadcasters from now that you shouldn't necessarily think of it that way, that you don't, you have the talent to be able to stay here. But I do think that there was some kind of luck, but I think that's kind of how sports is to begin with. And probably even journalism for you guys. I'm sure you can attest to it, that sometimes whether you're a multimedia journalist or you're a written journalist, it's a matter of just dumb luck sometimes about getting a job. Or I know for journalism, there's obviously lots of publications that people want to work for. I don't think everyone says they wouldn't hate writing for the New York Times or the Washington Post or something like that, a big national publication. So I think it's kind of the same thing, that you don't want to just be content with where you're at. You want to move forward. And for me, it was very exciting to be able to put my mark on this AHL franchise as we start.
Of course, now in our business, our side of it, everybody's kind of a multimedia journalist.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's all businesses, change that way, and obviously travel and stuff. Kind of was it always going to be hockey for you? Is it? I mean, obviously you wanted to be, a sports announcer. Was there ever football, baseball? Well, I know you're not a baseball fan. I know, but
I do like my Stockton Ports, though.
You do like your Stockton Ports.
I do like my Stockton Ports, yeah.
But was it ever always, if I was going to do this, it was going to be hockey?
Well, I think yeah. That's the simple answer. For me, it was, I grew up playing the sport. I've done, in college with the University of Cincinnati, I did soccer. I did a few women's basketball games. I did maybe a couple baseball games there. But I actually have only done one football game. It was an arena football game in Tampa between the Tampa Fire and the Tampa Police. So it wasn't even like a real tackle football game, but it was a flag football indoor arena football game, which is weird. But it's.
But I bet you just called the heck out of that, though. I bet you just.
I have the audio still for that from that day, and I've listened back to it. And for the first time doing a football game, it wasn't terrible. But the one thing about me when I do my broadcasting in any kind of sport is I don't like jamming it with useless information and stats that a lot of people, I think, jam into their broadcasts. For me, the focus should be on the game that's at hand. And I get that because in the media, you and I both are very interested in trends and if there's records or anything like that, because that's our job. Coaching staff, when I bring up some kind of record, not only do they have no idea that we have hit some kind of record, but they also don't care, and it's their focus is on the game. So when I broadcast, it was always the focus on the game, and I think because of that focus on how the game and how the nuances of the game are played, I just couldn't do the same job with any other sport because I never really played other sports. I've tried, I've had a year of football. I was just I'm still a small kid, but well, not a kid anymore, I guess. I'm starting to get old, but when I was younger, playing football, it was just, it was useless because I was so small, and I was thankfully a little skinnier back in those days. But you couldn't really do that. In baseball, you're right. I've never been a big fan of baseball. However, if I was to do another sport, baseball might be actually the sport I'd do because I find those games enjoyable to call because you can kind of let the crowd take over and you can kind of take a pause, whereas hockey, it's just go, 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 go all the time.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to ask, and I've asked this question before of people because I think, like, you'll talk to people coming, basically, coming right out of college, and they kind of have an idea of what they want to do, what they really want to do, but obviously you want to have your career in hockey, but would you have turned down a job in baseball to like get in the professional? If the opportunity had come, could you see yourself doing that like for a couple of years? Like you mentioned Mike Benton.
Yep.
And I know he did that. He worked in the Midwest.
Oddly enough, he worked at the Dayton Dragons, which was a minor league team a couple minutes away from where I grew up in Cincinnati. I'm from New York, but I grew up there, and he actually called for the Dayton Dragons. So
right, and that's not, I know Mike a long time, obviously, and he wanted to do what he does now, which is broadcast hockey.
Yep.
But it's a job. It's professional sports broadcasting.
Yep.
Would you have done it, or would you have held out for anything?
The honest answer is no, and I didn't even try. I had tried for PR jobs, and I could do PR and other aspects and do some writing. I tried I got really into soccer recently over the course of the last 5 years or so. So I tried a few MLS jobs, but for me, it was working in hockey. That's been my goal. I set a goal when I was in college that I wanted to intern in the National Hockey League. I was fortunate enough to be able to achieve that, and then after that internship, I said to myself, I want to work in hockey, whether it's a broadcasting or a media relations kind of job. That's what I want to do, and I kind of, it was tough because you limit yourself when you just limit yourself to one sport, and the jobs that are there. They're so hard to get into already in broadcasting in general, but when you limit yourself to one sport, you're down to 30 NHL teams, 30 AHL teams, and 28 ECHL teams. So there's not an awful lot of room to kind of get lucky, and that I think that's kind of what I ended up doing is getting lucky. But I was fortunate enough to have my longtime girlfriend, now wife. She was working a production job in Cincinnati, and was making some decent money. I was working, actually, had Played Again Sports, doing some of that stuff while also freelancing on the side, doing some web design, keeping my skills that I've been doing for a long time sharp, and also doing some. I was, oddly enough, the day I talked to Brian Sandy, the president, the then president of the Stockton Thunder, was the day I worked the very first time for a Cincinnati Swords team, which was a NA3HL junior team. It's a very lower league in juniors, but I was prepared for the entire season to work with them as their broadcaster and just try and keep some new stuff going on. So it was kind of funny how it ended up working out, but I think I would only have wanted to be in hockey, and I think I was very lucky. I think if I had given advice to anyone else, I would say don't limit yourself, because it's going to be harder on you, and it's going to take you longer to get back into the sport you really want to do. So I think the fortunate thing for many people who are interested in sports is that they're unlike me, that they are interested in sports. I'm interested in hockey, and that's kind of the problem that I had, and I paid for it in the first couple of years when I wasn't getting a job or getting a sniff at a job.
What's the toughest thing? I mean, I know you really enjoy it. Is it to travel? I mean, because you travel a lot. You're a newly married man, and you know it's because you're in a situation where your wife works in the industry and you've been doing this a while, but so she understands what it entails. But you know, you'll spend like this upcoming road trip. Kind of take people through where you're going and how many days, because you'll be on the road for Thanksgiving, right?
Yeah, it'll actually be the first holiday. First Thanksgiving I'll miss. So I missed New Year's Eve last year. We played in Ontario. We're going to do the exact same thing this year, but I wouldn't necessarily say the travel's tough. I think for me, I really enjoy the travel, and it does get me a little bit of time with the hockey operations staff, and they've become some of my best friends. In fact, the equipment manager for the Stockton Thunder, Corby Antropik, was in my wedding. If I would have known them for a lot longer too, I would imagine that a couple of the staff members here with the Heat would have been either in my wedding or at my wedding. It kind of came up at the last minute for all of these people, but you become really good friends with them. It's almost like a second family on the road, and that's also good too, because the wives of the hockey operations staff and the coaching staff, they all kind of know what everyone goes through, and they kind of get together and do Thanksgivings when we're out on the road, or do Christmas celebrations with everyone. So it's almost like a second family that you have to have, and it's a good group of people to be with. But for us, for this upcoming road trip that we have, Friday, right after the game here in Stockton Arena, we're going to be leaving right away for Bakersfield. When we get to Bakersfield, it'll probably be 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And that's when the players will go get some sleep. However, the staff, the hockey operations staff, and myself, because I stay with them, we won't even get to bed probably until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning if we get there at 2. And the reason being is because we have to unload the bus. We have to hang all the gear, especially because it'll be wet most likely, because all of it's going to be thrown into bags as soon as we exit the game and right on the bus. So it's going to be a long morning, and I think the travel, it is tough in the sense that you're not getting very much sleep. It can also lead to some illnesses kind of thing. So once you get done with the Bakersfield game, we'll leave right after Bakersfield, come back to Stockton, do the exact same drill here at Stockton Arena, where we'll hang all the gear up. We'll get all the sticks back in the stick room. We won't be leaving anytime soon, and then we have Monday on the here at Stockton Arena, probably on the ice, and then Tuesday we'll be leaving for Ontario. And Ontario, we after that game, we're going to be leaving for Tucson, and that'll take us through Thanksgiving. So we'll get to Tucson on Thanksgiving Day, early morning, and then same exact thing. It's rinse and repeat. It's hang gear, hang tags, get the locker room ready to go. And I tell you, doing that, I think you give a lot more appreciation for the job that the equipment managers have, because people, they're not necessarily have gone to an equipment managing college. There's not a 4-year degree that you take with these things, but the amount of work that these guys do and the knowledge that they have about the sport and about just silly little things, smart things on how things operate. It just takes so much knowledge and so much skill, and also a lot of heart to do that kind of a job. So you gain a little bit of appreciation for there. So it is the travel's fun. I love going to new places. I love seeing the new places. I think Ontario, San Diego, those are some of my favorite places to go. Anchorage, back when I went to the Alaska Aces game, not as much. It's freezing there. Iowa was also freezing, but very nice. Des Moines last year. So it has its good sides. It has its tough sides, but overall, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I love the travel.
Where would you like to go? It's a big league.
Yep.
And obviously, you'll hit all the most of the Western teams and all the Pacific teams during the year, but and then you move over into the other division in the West to do a team or two a year. But Is there something that you wish this year and next year when you pick up the schedule is on
Yeah.
it? I mean, I know you've been to a lot of city, but is
Yeah.
there somebody you want to go?
Well, Toronto is probably my favorite city behind Munich I've ever been to. It's almost like a miniature New York City, and I've actually never even been to New York City, so it's kind of hard for me, I guess, to make that comparison. But I've heard other people say that, and it's a lot of fun. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff, and being a big fan of the sport of hockey, the Hockey Hall of Fame's there. People love hockey in Toronto. It's almost like the hockey mecca, and it's really fun to go to. So I'd love to go to Toronto. And oddly enough, I grew up in the Midwest, about 3.5 hours away from Chicago, but I've never been to Chicago. So I would love to go there and play the Chicago Wolves. I think that would be a real fun road trip. I hear that that's one of those road trips you kind of really look forward to. But I would think that most of the teams out east would prefer to come out to California because
to the western swing.
Yeah, because I tell you what, San Diego and Ontario, I feel spoiled just going down to Southern California and getting some of the warmth. And San Jose is a nice part of town and got some cool things that you can do. Even Stockton, Bakersfield, like there's all positive things I think when you come through California. Tucson, we were there for their first weekend, so I'll kind of give them a second chance as we go through here with the building wise. I think they had some kinks that they had to work out with, but it was super hot there. But I would imagine if you're Toronto, Bridgeport, Hartford, that time of year, you don't mind leaving home to come out to Tucson or California.
Well, now last year you did play Rockford, which is not
Yep.
far from. Did you get into Chicago, or not enough time while you were there?
That was the first time I'd even come remotely close to my parents. So my parents and my sister and her wife ended up driving out to
Where do they live?
Rockford in Cincinnati.
Oh, they are in Cincinnati.
And so they drove from Cincinnati to Rockford, and I was expecting them to stay for the game. They, in fact, came the day we arrived there. We had a practice day, and once practice was done, I finished with the operations staff, and then they took me to the outskirts of Chicago where we had Lou Malnati's Pizza, which is something I guess they're big fans of. It was pretty good pizza. I'm more of a New York pizza kind of guy. You can appreciate that over Chicago, deep dish, but it was still good pizza, and we had a good time. I hadn't seen, actually, my sister in 2 years, so it was nice to be able to see her. And my family, the only time they've actually been able to make it out to Stockton was for our Teddy Bear Toss shutout when we were the Stockton Thunder, and we played I want to say we played Colorado here, and I hyped up the whole Teddy Bear Toss thing. Once we score, it'll be great, and we didn't score, and it was not very much fun, which was unfortunate. But that was the only time they've ever been out to Stockton, so it was nice to be able to see them. But I don't get to see my family too often, but we did get to the outskirts of Chicago on that trip.
And the by the way, the secret's in the name, deep dish pizza. It's pizza is not. It's very good, but it's not pizza. It's not served in a dish. It's served on a pan.
That's right. And you know what? New York pizza. There's nothing better than New York pizza.
Absolutely.
There's nothing better.
That's true. It's a fact, even.
It is. I think it's a fact. I think you think it's a fact. I like Buffalo. Buffalo pizza is a slight difference than New York pizza, but still similar because it's still thinner on the thinner
put
side.
Those little wings on them.
No, those come on the side. But there's all of those places exist. Like
Obviously, I have not had pizza in Buffalo.
Oh, you're missing out. Pizza in Buffalo's good. Combine that with some good wings. Go to Duff's next. If you ever go back to New York and you go to Buffalo, go to Duff's. They have some good wings.
Well, if I get that close, I'm zipping right over to Niagara Falls. I got to be honest with you, but
yeah, Niagara Falls is something you got to see. Especially, I mean,
I've
been there so many
nice.
times though. That's the thing. But around the wintertime, it's cool because they put all the lights up and everything. Especially if it freezes, you get the mist that comes off the lake and it freezes all of the trees, and it's got like little icicles on each branch. It's really pretty to go there in the wintertime for sure.
Let's talk about the team a little bit. They're off to a nice start.
Yeah.
One, do you see? Obviously, some players have come back and forth, as always, at this level.
Yep.
Do you think? I mean, is this a good team? Is this a playoff caliber team? I mean, what they have on the ice right now, and I say that obviously there's a big asterisk there. You don't know. There's injuries. There's people getting promoted up, and if you're a very good team at this level, you do lose people because, especially if the team isn't necessarily great at the NHL level, you'll get guys hot here, and they'll be called up to, which is what you want to do.
Yep.
But what you're seeing right now, how good is this team?
I think this team's really good. I think this is the best team that we've had since on the ice, and I'm comparing to an ECHL club, so keep that in mind. But the 2013-14 Stockton Thunder, my first year, we had a really good squad that if we didn't lose 6 players in the playoffs, we would have probably made it to the Kelly Cup again and repeated at least going to the final dance. But we fell to Bakersfield that year because we had lost, I think, 6 players en route there, whereas right now you are losing players to the NHL, especially because the Calgary Flames have had some struggles up top. But I think this is a great team. Like, you have 3 quality goaltenders, which is a big difference from last year, because last year we lost John early on in the season, John Gillies. Then it was kind of like a hodgepodge finding certain players to fill those roles. Plus, on that, you also had a young defensive core, whereas now a lot of those guys on your defense have had a year to mature, and you're seeing a better Kenny Morris, and you're seeing a better Ryan Colkin, despite his injury early on in the season. Plus, you have a big step forward, I think, from Oliver Shillington, where he's someone that's really kind of blossomed into his own on the defensive side of the ice, and then you fill in with rookies like Rasmus Andersson has been really impressive. I think for me, he kind of came as advertised, how I expected to see him this year. A solid player who makes smart decisions with the puck, and even I've noticed when I'm up here, even when he does makes a mistake and loses the puck, he has a knack to go back and get the puck and retrieve it. So I think that the defensive side of the ice has been really helpful.
His ability to see the ice is for his age. He just turned 20.
Yeah.
And the way he can read a play is well beyond 20.
Yeah, and part of that's got to do with the fact that he's played on big ice. You see how, like, when the Alaska Aces would play on their big ice, how dominant they were every time they'd play against an ECHL team, and it's because they play on this big ice. But I think you see that from Rasmus. You can easily tell that big ice, he's got the smarts to know that now on the smaller ice surface, he's got to get rid of the puck quicker. He's got to make those decisions. But because of that big ice and there's so much room, you have an idea in your head when you have the puck as to where your teammate should be and where the puck needs to go. And he's got that innate ability that is not teachable, I don't think. I think that's something that you just develop over time, and you kind of have a certain kind of hockey IQ. And in someone like him, and then I think switching over to the offensive side, Mark Jankowski, a prime example of why we're competitive this year. I mean, there are just players on this team, I think, that are at the peak of their game early on in the season, and certainly we've seen a couple guys are in that call-up because they've been on that peak. Lyndon Vay's gotten the call. Hunter Shinkarik was someone I wasn't even sure we'd see this season. But Mark Jankowski's another one that I think sooner rather than later, the guy's on a 7-game point streak. He plays smart everywhere on the ice. I just don't think he's going to be here for much longer because he's just too good.
Before we go, first I want to thank you for your time today. I know you're a busy man.
I always have time for you, Scott.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And you do, as you say, you do play, and I know you've played adult leagues around here.
Yeah.
And you're pretty proud, and I hope that this won't embarrass you. You have a skill. Shot blocking.
It's a skill, but my dad thinks it's stupid that I do it. I
was going to get into that. Let me first of all explain the mindset of the high skilled shot blocker, and then that was my second question. Thanks for stealing it.
Sorry.
Why your family thinks this is a horrible idea, and I don't know this, but I'm going to take a little bit of a jump and think that your wife also thinks that this is.
Oh, she was mad at me so much this year because I
first explain the mindset of a shot blocker and what you do as the blocker of shots.
Well, for me,
and not a goalie. I want to make that clear.
Yeah, not a goalie. No,
it's somebody who will throw his life and limb to. Basically, you're like a Secret Service guy.
Yeah, that
will dive in front of the net to stop the shot from getting through.
That's actually a great interpretation of what a shot blocker does.
What I do.
The fact is, I've played every position. I've played goalie. I actually, when I played goal in high school, I would get bored, and I had a really good team that year. So it never was really all that fun to me to play goal. I thought it would be something more than it was, and I just didn't enjoy it as much. And I've never been a great goal scorer. There was one team that I ever led in my youth years that I led the team in goal scoring, and we were a terrible team. We finished last, and that goes to show you what kind of a player that I could be, because I was not someone that you could count on to carry a team offensively. I was someone that played better defensively, and I like Rasmus when it comes to my men's league skills. I would think that my passing and my vision is the better part of my game, but as I've gotten older and fatter for sure, I've lost a step of my old speed that I had when I was a kid. So I think for me, getting into those shooting lanes and being able to block shots, it was something that was appealing to me ever since I saw really Jay McKee do it and do it really well for the Buffalo Sabres, because I grew up a Buffalo Sabres fan, and Jay McKee is coaching in juniors right now, but he's one of those guys that had the shot blockers when they weren't necessarily fashionable to have at the time. Now every single player has the clear plastic things. If you look at their skates, you'll see our entire team will have clear plastic over top of their skates, and those are shot blockers. And they used to make them out of leather, and that's what Jay McKee had. And I saw those, and I said to myself, like, I want those. I can do that really well. And playing in the position of goalie and also playing mostly defense throughout my life, it was something that came, I think, a little easier to me to figure out the block shot mentality. And of course, like, you do have problems when you block shots, and if you look at some of the guys that do it for the Stockton Heat, sometimes it goes off your stick and it redirects on your goaltender, and hey, it can sometimes go in past your goalie, even though you're meaning to try and stop the puck. Sometimes it can make the goalie's job a little bit harder to do, but there's something about contributing to the team when you're not contributing with goals and with points, being able to contribute in other ways, and being able to block shots, to me, was a way that I could contribute on to the high school teams that I played on, or the my men's league teams that I played on, was a way that I could contribute and keep shots away from my goaltender. And I don't wear a visor. I wear a full cage, which some people will make fun of me for or whatnot. But
if you're going to do that, I'm glad to hear you wear a full cage.
I wear a full cage, but I don't wear a lot of men's leaguers don't wear chest protectors. And so I don't wear one of those, and you can easily get one of those pucks up here in the chest, and it can really hurt. And so it's a tough job. It's not a job that I'd recommend anyone doing in men's league. If you're playing youth hockey, like 100%, like you should get to the ability of blocking shots and learn that kind of thing, because if you want to try and get to certain levels, whether it be in a junior hockey or there's a couple Western States junior league teams around in California. The San Jose Junior Sharks, I think, are one of the prime examples. I know that Dustin Cowell played on a team out of Sacramento, I believe the Capital City Thunder. You want to play for those teams, you have to have a role on the team, and sometimes those roles don't mean killing. Sometimes they're not going to get penalties or get goals. Sometimes it's killing penalties. Someone like a Ryan Lomberg, Lomberg's not the most skilled player for the Stockton Heat, but boy, Scott, you've seen this team just about as much as I have. You'd be hard-pressed to find anyone that's got more heart and dedication than a guy like that.
True. No.
So that was
definitely won the motors. Won the motors, and
he brings guys into the game too, and that's what you want to do if you're a young player and you're not that goal scorer, gifted goal scorer, and you can contribute a little bit offensively. Bring your team into the game, doing stuff like what Ryan does.
Just so we're on the same wavelength here, you wouldn't recommend anybody in adult leagues necessarily do it, but are you going to play this next season?
I find that it's hard for me to play during the season. I will probably play in the summer after we're done.
Okay. Will you still do it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I still do it, and I'll still get yelled at by my father when I tell him I hurt myself. Or
have you ever been hurt?
Yeah, twice. Pretty good, actually. 2 years ago, I blocked a shot in men's league, and if you look at my left hand, actually, you know where the knuckles are. My ring finger. Actually, the knuckles dropped.
This is going to be a podcast. It's no video.
I know.
I am actually looking at his hands at this moment, and one of his knuckles is all gnarly.
Dropped.
Yeah.
I got one when I blocked it with a glove, and sometimes the guys that do block shots, they actually have a plastic piece that goes over top your glove now. I didn't have that on my glove. I've asked our old equipment manager, Corby Antropik, for one, but so it dropped my knuckle, and there was a couple days where I thought it was broken, but fortunately I had some help with Moose Bronya, and he had me set up with a couple of the doctors for the team and helped me out there. So I was hurt there, and then the one that really got me into trouble, where I was told I was not allowed to play hockey afterward, is right before my wedding this summer. I went to go block a shot, and the defenseman was bringing it like from the far point to the center point, and I was kind of cutting over to try and take out the lane and block a shot. Well, as soon as he pulled that out, I was going the other way and had to reverse direction. So as soon as he pulled the trigger on a shot, I tried to get in the way, and my ankle popped right underneath me. And I thought for sure that I was going to be walking down an aisle with crutches because I was in severe pain after that. I actually had to squirt water down in my skate to try and freeze the injury because I thought it was swelling up. So I didn't leave the game. I was proud of that, and stayed there. But I got it really bad for my wife, who said no more hockey until after the wedding. And even through the wedding and through my honeymoon, I had ill effects from that shot block that I still don't think are completely correct, but it's livable.
So for your honeymoon, was it like Brandon Kiska doubtful ankle? Did you have a injury list?
It was lower body. Thank you very much. Lower body injury, and
right.
It was
right, because we want to say exactly where it is.
That's right. Yeah. I'd say lower body injury, and doubtful is probably a fair assessment of what it was. But I was a trooper. I tried my best. There was only a couple times during the honeymoon, because we walked everywhere in Germany that I had to kind of pull off to the side and take a seat for a little bit. Or realistically, we found a place that sold beer and had a liter beer in Germany, because it's basically everywhere you go. And then we'd go on, carry on our merry way. So,
okay, Brandon, thank you for joining us today. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Brandon Kiska, the voice of the Stockton Heat, and we're hoping to do these podcasts one every couple of weeks with players, coaches, and get behind the scenes a little bit and let you get to know some of the people better. Thank you very much for listening.